Hey Pascal, this is Panther Nation. I'm Connor Hibbett.
And I'm Gage Laswell.
I want to just start off by saying what a great season for Pascal volleyball. They finished 27-16 overall, 8-6 in district, finished 111th in the state of Texas, 957th in the nation, and finished 4th in district. What a great season. So great job to Pascal volleyball and Coach Tim Ryman, who we interviewed a few weeks ago.
Let's give him a round of applause right here.
Very well played. Now, first round in the playoffs, they lost to Keller, but they lost in all close sets. 25-21, 27-25, and 25-22. But overall, very well played by the Pascal Panthers, and we couldn't be any more proud of them. And because we love talking about playoffs opportunities on the talk show. First one for our talk show. This is our first year, and this is our first opportunity to talk about the playoffs, and for one of our teams to be in the playoffs.
Agreed.
So yeah, great job by Pascal volleyball this year. They did an amazing job. Pascal football, they play tomorrow night, on Friday night, 7:30, at Lamar, who's 4th in district. 3-2 in district, 4-4 overall. They have scored 163 points this year and given up 203. Lamar's defense actually isn't too bad, so I think this might be a challenging game for us to score. They won a game earlier this year at Keller, 7-0.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
And Keller's really good, too.
Yeah. So that this is going to be trouble for us.
But
now their offense isn't very good, so maybe we can keep it low score and have a better chance to win than what we've had in the other games. But they lost to Mansfield 30-7, did Lamar. So, and we lost 51-0. So we'll see what happens, but maybe we can keep this one close.
But to be honest, Mansfield is
dominant.
They're a really good team.
Yeah, they're the best team in the district, and then you have Arlington, who's also pretty good, and
state champion contender right there.
Yeah, they really are.
So was Martin too.
Yeah. Now, someone that shouldn't be in contention, in my opinion, is Ezekiel Elliott. He should not be, we shouldn't be having to argue whether he should be playing or not, and he actually is able to play now. But, Gage, what is your opinion on his suspension?
Well, I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, granted, I don't think fans would agree with his ruling, but Ezekiel Elliott is going to do what he's going to do. He's going to take that 6-game suspension, and he's going to learn from this.
We sure hope he learns. I mean, people have to mature and learn from their mistakes and improve, no matter whether it's on the field or off the field. But I don't personally agree that I think he should have been suspended. I don't think he should be able to play. I think what he did was totally inappropriate, totally immature, and I don't think he should be able to play for whatever, 5-6 games, whatever the suspension may be for. But I don't think he should be playing, but that's my opinion. But Cowboys are doing okay this year, but even without him, I don't think it'd make a huge difference. I don't really think he's the difference maker. I think it's more of their offensive line and how their team's based. But I don't think he should be able to play. That's my opinion. But speaking of teams or players who can't play, the Dallas Mavericks are just not doing very well this year. 1-8 overall. They cannot play. Gage, what do you got for us with NBA?
Well, first of all, like you said, the Mavericks are last in the Western Conference and probably last in the NBA.
Yeah.
But let's look at the top teams in the two conferences far. We have the LA Clippers with a record of 5-2. They are 3-2 at home, 2-0, and undefeated on the road.
2-0, yeah.
Behind them are the Rockets. They're 1-2 at home and 5-1 on the road. And actually, I saw them play last night against the Knicks. They won that game. And let's look at the Eastern Conference. We have Boston with a record of 6-2, 3-1 at home and 3-1 on the road. Behind them, the Orlando Magic. They're undefeated at home and they're 3-2 on the road. I am very, very proud of this team.
Yeah,
very
showing a little bit of
proud.
magic. So, what did you think that the Dallas Mavericks were going to do heading into the season? What were you expecting?
I was expecting more from them. I would expect them winning more games,
than what
5-3.
they are. 5-3.
Maybe
at least 500.
Yeah, maybe over 500.
But the one thing that we can argue is the Dallas Mavericks have the worst record in the NBA at 1-8, but they're arguably in the toughest conference in the Western Conference with Golden State, who is
The
really
LA Clippers.
is not at the top right now, but they'll make their way up. L.A. Clippers, Houston Rockets, Memphis Grizzlies, Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder, Portland Trailblazers. All those teams can really make a run, except for New Orleans and arguably Sacramento and probably not Dallas. But Dallas needs to go on that winning streak because they've lost their last 4 games. So, but 1-8 this year, not very impressive.
Something needs to click.
Something needs to click.
Something needs to click.
Whether it's rotating guys,
And surprisingly, the Boston's doing pretty well without Gordon Hayward.
yeah.
After that gruesome ankle injury that happened, that was their opening night too.
Yeah. Now the coach for the Boston Celtics, Brad Stevens, he used to be the coach at Butler when they made a couple Final Fours in a row and lost both the championships. Gordon Hayward played on one of those teams. Played on that team that they lost to Duke. In fact, he missed that half-court shot by arguably a couple of inches. Do you remember that shot against Duke in the championship 2010?
I actually wasn't watching that game, so
I was a Butler fan in that game. I didn't want to see Duke win it. I don't like pulling for a Yankee type team or the Duke Blue Devils, or we can go on and on about that. But I love pulling for the underdogs. So, but speaking of underdogs, we've had a lot of underdogs surprising us in college football this year.
And don't forget the MLB, Houston. Houston Astros.
Houston Astros. Congratulations. That's actually the first Texas Major League Baseball team to win it all. To win the World Series. So congratulations to the Houston Astros that won 7 games. 5-1 was the final score of the 7th game against the Dodgers. In Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles, so the fans were pretty heartbroken.
Yeah, it was quiet in that bottom of the 8th inning when they got that second out. They were like, I just saw all the fans, they looked all depressed, and I was really happy for Houston because I really thought that the Dodgers would win it in 7, but Houston won it.
And we have a friend who is very happy right now.
Oh my goodness, yes, he must be. And he was really happy this past weekend when Houston converted 4th and 24 on USF and gave USF their first loss. Yeah, of the season. And so they were ranked number 17 at the time. Now they're not even ranked. And so he was really happy with that. He was more like, what just happened type happy because he was really shocked. And now he's really just really, really happy. He must be on cloud 9 right now. He's so happy that his Houston Astros won. That's like his favorite team in all sports. So congratulations to Houston Astro fans, and the city of Houston coming off a terrible, catastrophe this year with a hurricane. So kind of feel good for them now, or better at least.
Now back to college football.
College football. Yeah. All right. You want to know the playoff 1 through 4, the playoff teams? Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson. That's what they have ranked.
Yeah.
Who do you think are the top 4 teams, or who do you think will finish in the top 4 teams by the end of the season?
Same what you have, but my number 5 and number 6 are going to be a bit different.
Well, that's what they have. That's not what I have.
Yes. Now, my 5 and 6, number 5, we're going to go Penn State, and number 6, Ohio State.
You think Penn State's going to finish in front of Ohio State, even though Penn State lost to them head-to-head?
To be honest, that one loss was very hard, but
Definitely.
To be honest, they're the better team. I'm not saying Ohio State is bad. I'm just saying I think Penn State is a better team.
You looked at the score of the game. If they were showing score updates on ESPN and stuff like that, it was 28-10, and then most of the game, Penn State was winning by at least 2 scores, and you wouldn't have guessed this, but Ohio State outgained them by almost 230 yards, just about 230 yards. And you wouldn't have guessed that, but they had some key turnovers. J.T. Barrett does that against a lot of the good teams during the course of his career at Ohio State. But, I mean, they won, and you look at the score, it's okay, they won by 1 at home, but they really dominated the course of the game except for a couple of turnovers. And that's really key. And I can see where you're thinking about Penn State, how they're the better team, that they gave up a lead. And so, I mean, I can see where you're going with that, but I still think that I still think that Ohio State's going to finish in front of Penn State, no matter what those two teams do for the rest of the season, unless Ohio State goes to the Big Ten Championship and loses to Wisconsin.
Yeah. And then there's Oklahoma. I think they're not going to finish where they are right now.
I totally agree. Who do you think will beat them?
I'm hoping TCU might bump them out.
What about Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State? Not really.
Even though they're playing at home?
To be honest, I'm pretty sure it's those two Big Ten teams, Ohio State and Penn State, are going to be your number 5 and number 6.
And then Big 12 is going to be, what, 7 and 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I'm putting Oklahoma as 7.
Okay. And then who's finishing at 8? TCU?
TCU.
And then, okay.
Number 9, Oklahoma State.
So all those 3 teams are going to finish back to back to back, okay, all from the same conference. Okay, here's my top 4 teams. I think that Alabama gets an ugly win against LSU. I think LSU is going to give them a good game, but I think they get a win.
Yeah.
I don't think this Alabama team is as good as last year's team or the team before that.
By far, they're not.
No, they haven't played against any good teams this year. In fact, here's some interesting notes for you. Alabama, their wins in conference so far have been against Vandy, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Ole Miss. All those teams, Vandy and Tennessee, do not have a win. Texas A&M is 3-2 overall in conference. Arkansas is 1-4 in conference. Ole Miss is as well 1-4. So I think Alabama just hasn't played that good of competition. I mean, they're still Alabama. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that from that perspective, if you look at it like that, they haven't played anybody good. And the closest game they've had was against the one team that had a decent record in conference at the time, which was A&M at A&M, 27-19. So, I mean, does that prove anything? No, but it might say something about how good Alabama is.
Well, I mean, if you look at the playoff rankings right now,
right, Georgia's number 1.
Georgia's
Alabama's
number 1, number 2.
Notre Dame's number 3 because of a few really impressive wins here lately. And then, of course, Clemson's number 4. You can't go wrong with Clemson, even though they lost against Syracuse. But Syracuse really is not that bad of a team, although they did lose to Middle Tennessee State first game of the season, 30-23.
So is Ohio State. I think Ohio State came into this season very underrated.
Ohio State?
No, Iowa State. My bad.
Iowa State. Oh, yeah. Ohio State was ranked number 2 to start the season, so yeah. But
Iowa State
came
in severely underrated.
I mean, when they're 3-9 the season before, you can't expect them to do what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing you could have said was something like I said earlier about how they gave teams competitive games last year and would lose it at the end by a touchdown or maybe 10 points, 8, 9 points, something like that. And then now they're pulling out those close games. I mean, you think about it. If it wasn't for the win against Oklahoma, they probably wouldn't have had the momentum to beat TCU or Texas Tech, anything like that. And so the conference would be in a total different look right now. TCU would most likely be number 1. You know, Oklahoma might still be number 1, right? They'd probably be number 1. Then TCU would be because of the rankings, and then Oklahoma State would not be too far behind. And so that's what it would look like. But right now, all 4 of those teams, Iowa State, TCU, and the 2 Oklahoma teams, are tied in first place. Here's my top 4. I think Alabama rolls through these next few games, which will be tough.
Roll.
Yeah, roll. You see what I did there? Yeah. Against LSU, 24-17. They're going to play at Mississippi State next week, not this week, but next week, who's a decent team, who's ranked 16th currently right now in the playoff rankings. Then against Mercer. So, show mercy. And then they're going to be playing at Auburn, which is going to be a rival game, and something like that.
The Iron Bowl.
The Iron Bowl, one of the best games in the nation right now, currently for rivalries.
One of the toughest rivalries, too.
Yes, and one of the deepest ones, too. That game could be close. That might be interesting.
There's a lot of history between those 2 schools.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Mississippi State will be interesting. Maybe it'll start off slow like it did a couple years ago, coming off a tough win when Alabama beat LSU 30-17. They struggled in the first half against Mississippi State, then got rolling, and they ended up winning 31-6. So you might see something like that, except maybe not that high scoring for either team. But I look for Alabama to keep rolling. They're going to win in an ugly fashion, and then they might beat Georgia. They might. I think Georgia could beat them, but I think Alabama. Alabama's Alabama.
There's a slight possibility that Georgia could beat Alabama.
There is. That's the only team right now that you could say, yeah, they could beat them. Like, because you look at LSU, it's like, they might beat them. You look at Mississippi State, not really. Auburn, maybe. But then Georgia's like, yeah, they really could. They really could step it.
They have a chance.
Step it up, yeah. I think Alabama finishes number 1. I think, I was trying to consider whether to put Clemson in or not, but I don't think they're the team to beat this year.
Not really.
I think they're going to lose to North Carolina State this week. I think North Carolina State's going to win their division in the ACC. They're going to play in the ACC championship. I think against Virginia Tech. That will be an interesting game. I'll wait to give you who I think will win that. But I don't think anybody from the ACC gets in this year. I think Notre Dame gets in at number 2. I think they're the second most impressive team actually in the country after Georgia right now. But I think Alabama, number 1, Notre Dame, number 2. And you know who I think is going to finish number 3?
Who do you think?
I think it's going to be Oklahoma State.
You think it's going to be Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State, yes, number 3. Or, no, they'll finish number 4. Ohio State will finish number 3. And then Oklahoma State, number 4. I think those are the 4 teams you might see in the playoff this year.
I can see where you're going there.
I can definitely see Alabama, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. But I think Oklahoma State will be that 4th spot.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oklahoma State will win the Bedlam matchup this weekend against Oklahoma, 45-38. They're playing at home. They just kind of have that edge.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you think is going to win each conference? So I'll start off with the Big 12 for you. We'll go in alphabetical. Well, not alphabetical, but
well, I'm hoping TCU might pull off the Big 12 win, but I have my doubts. They're right now in mix between Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I think it's gonna be Oklahoma State.
You think it's gonna be Oklahoma State, not Oklahoma, right?
I'm hoping TCU will. Excuse me, but I don't think that might happen. I'm hoping. So I'm gonna have to go with Oklahoma State.
Okay. So what do you think their record will be?
Let's see. How many wins do they have right now? Or losses?
They only have 1 loss right now.
1 loss. I think they'll go maybe 10-2.
They're currently 7-1. So
maybe 10 and maybe not 11-1 or 10-2. That's my.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. But okay, here's who I have winning each conference. I think in the ACC. I think VTech comes away with it. I think Virginia Tech's going to come away with it.
Or, actually, no. To be honest, my SEC, I think it's going to be North Carolina State.
Okay. All right. In the Big 12, I think Oklahoma State's going to win it. In the SEC, I think Alabama's going to win it. But I think it's going to be a great matchup between Alabama and Georgia. And they play in Atlanta, which is in Georgia. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even though both teams will have a lot of fans there, Georgia has the home field advantage, whatever, if you want to say that. I think in the Pac-12...
Insert quote, home field advantage.
Yeah. I think in the Pac-12, Washington wins it. They had the most impressive defense, overall most balanced team. Well, they did lose to Arizona State 13-7, and their only touchdown came with about 6 minutes left in the game, which is not very impressive. But I think they're going to win it against the USC for the Pac-12 championship. I think they'll just miss out on the playoff. And
how about the Big Ten championship?
And the Big Ten championship, no doubt, Ohio State versus Wisconsin. Ohio State rolls over them, but Wisconsin keeps it close. They keep possession, but they're just not as good. I think Ohio State wins the game 28-17 against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship, and they move on. And because Wisconsin will probably be ranked number 4, while Ohio State's ranked number 5, something like that, they'll get that spot in the playoff just like they did last year, and they'll get in as number 3. I think Notre Dame will stay as number 2, but that will be very interesting to see how they play that since they don't play in a conference championship because they're an independent. I think Alabama. I can guarantee you this: the winner of Alabama Georgia is number 1 going into the playoff.
I can totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah, but I think Alabama's Alabama, and I think they're going to win in a close one. It might be something like 13-10 or 14-13, but they'll win. Mm-hmm. That's what we see Alabama do. But that'd be awesome if Georgia could pull that off. But Georgia does not have the total game to beat Alabama. That's my opinion. I don't think either quarterback for them is good enough to win. That is my opinion. I have to talk about the AAC, the American Athletic Conference.
Let me say this: who wants it more? That's my question.
Yeah, who wants it more? Well, we know Alabama is always prepared. We know Georgia's going to really want it, but so is Alabama. I think both teams are going to be prepared, and I think those are the two best teams in the country at this moment. And I think Notre Dame's right there with them. But it's just, for Notre Dame, it's going to be really hard, to make it into the playoff.
Yeah.
But you can look at their schedule because, up next, they have the 3 games they have next are Navy at home.
Which is an
Then
what is a decent team? Let's just say that
they're 5-2, so they're pretty decent. Yeah, I mean they're okay. But when you're a military school like that and you run that triple option, they're going to be well disciplined. They're going to be ready to play. Then they play at Miami, who's currently ranked number 10th in the nation, and then 10th. They're currently ranked number 10th. That's an inside joke, but anyway. They're number 10 in the nation, currently ranked 10th, and then they're going to be playing at Stanford. So that should be very interesting to see how those outcomes, or what those outcomes will be. So, but their schedule provides a really good eye test, like what they say, like the ESPN analysts say. But I think their schedule's tough enough for them to make it. But just because they're not playing in a conference championship, that does worry me. Mm-hmm. But of course, Ohio State didn't play in their conference championship last year, and they got in over Penn State, who won against Wisconsin.
That still pisses me off.
Yeah, it makes me really frustrated. That's for sure.
Penn State was a really good team last year, and even though they deserved to be in the in the playoffs.
They were riding a huge winning streak. Started the season 2-2, and won the rest of their games until USC in the Rose Bowl, which they lost 52-49 on a last-second field goal. USC came back; they were down by a couple touchdowns, but that was a great game. But I think Penn State's still underrated team. I still think they're better than what their ranking shows. But at this point in the season, you can't really say much because Alabama, Georgia, Wisconsin, those teams are undefeated. Miami's undefeated. Yeah. UCF here, down here in the rankings, but they're still pretty good, is undefeated. So, but anyways, I wanted to talk about the American Athletic Conference real quick. That'll wrap up the show for this week. I hope you've enjoyed this show. The American Conference has 2 really good teams. You can argue 3. Memphis, UCF, and USF. Now, USF and UCF play each other on the last game of the season on the 18th. So that will be interesting to see who wins that matchup. But I got UCF winning the American Athletic Conference this year. They beat Memphis earlier this year, 40-13. It wasn't much of a contest.
Wow.
I think UCF, yeah. They've given up the least points in the AAC, but Memphis has scored the most points, but good defense beats good offense. And I think they're the best team in that conference. I think my point here is they're undefeated currently right now. I would not be surprised if they make a New Year's 6 bowl game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised at all. In fact, wouldn't that be funny to see them being ranked number 6 or 7, playing against a 1-loss Wisconsin team or a 1-loss Alabama or Georgia team, someone like that, That'd be pretty cool. Well, Gage, do you have anything else to say before our show ends this week?
No, I think that's it.
All right, well, I hope you've enjoyed the show this week. Got a lot of stuff to go over next week, too. I cannot wait. Maybe we'll get an interview. We'll see what happens. But for now, this is Panther Nation. I'm Connor Hibbett.
And I'm Gage Laswell.
And I hope you have a great week and weekend, Pascal. Here are your picks for this week. For college pick'em, Auburn at A&M, which that game starts at 11 o'clock. I got Auburn winning this game 31-17. A&M did not look impressive against Mississippi State. They lost that game 35-14 at home. And fun fact, the Auburn and A&M, since A&M joined the conference in 2012, the road team has won every single time when those 2 teams have played. So interesting there. Clemson at NC State. I think NC State's going to pull off the upset, 23-20 on a winning field goal at the end. NC State prevails at home. They're currently actually number 1 in the AAC in their division over Clemson, who's 4-1 in who's 4-1 in conference. I'm sorry, they're 5-1 in conference, and NC State is undefeated in conference. So we'll see what happens. But I think NC State's gonna win that game in a close one, 23-20. Ohio State at Iowa. Ohio State wins. I think they start off slow. I think the game's actually going to be close throughout lots of the first half, maybe the first 2.5 quarters if you look at it like that. But Ohio State pulls it off 35-17. They win easily at the end. Iowa State at West Virginia. This game is going to be real close. In fact, West Virginia might pull this one off, but I think Iowa State will prevail in West Virginia, 41-38. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think Will Grier and the West Virginia offense gets a lot going, but Iowa State's just won too many good fundamentals on that Iowa State team. That they're really good with fundamentals, so I think they're going to pull it out, 41-38. I think they're going to win it on a field goal pretty late in the game, so we'll see what happens there. Stanford at Washington State. Stanford does not look very good on the road this year. They look much better at home. They're undefeated at home this year, but on the road they're not as impressive. They just beat Oregon State 15-14 a couple weeks ago, so doesn't bode well for Stanford. I think Washington State, they're undefeated at home too this year. Washington State, I think Washington State prevails in this game, 38-35.
Yeah, you put that at a close game too.
Yeah, a lot of these games I think will be close this week. OU at Oklahoma State, another high-scoring, great game. I think Oklahoma State prevails at home as well. I think they win 45-38. In fact, I believe Oklahoma State's going to maintain a 2-touchdown lead for most of the game, and then Oklahoma makes it close on the scoreboard at the end. I think both offenses will have their way, but I think the Oklahoma State defense will get a couple stops, might force a couple turnovers, key turnovers, and I think that will give them the win. I do not see the OU defense stopping the Oklahoma State offense whatsoever. So, Texas at TCU, another great but low-scoring game, so we'll see what happens here. But I think Texas is going to pull off the upset, Horned Frogs. Gage?
I have to disagree with you on that one.
You think TCU is going to win by 2 or 3 touchdowns?
TCU looks way too good. Not like I'm not trying to be a super fan of TCU, but to be honest, TCU is a lot more balanced than Texas.
They are much more balanced. I think this Texas defense is legit. I think they're elite. I think the Texas defense gets it done. I think they're going to force a pick 6 in the game, and I think that will get the job done for them. I think Texas wins at TCU this week, 17-14. I heard a couple girls talking in my algebra class how they were saying, man, Texas really isn't that good. You know, they lost to Oklahoma, who lost to Iowa State, who beat TCU. But they were like, they're not really good this year, and we're playing at home, and so they're like, I don't think the game's going to be close, but it should be an easy win. And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, no, it's not going to be an easy win. If you guys win, it'll be close. I think this game is going to be low scoring. I think both teams are going to be held to less than 20 points and arguably less than 400 yards of offense. But I think Texas is going to get the upset here, 17-14. LSU at Alabama, I think this game will be close. But Alabama prevails 24-17. Gage, what do you think? Do you think it's not going to be very close? Because the line says 21.5 points favoring Alabama. What do you think?
I mean, no doubt Alabama's going to win this one. LSU is one of those teams. It's like they can lose anyone, but they can also beat anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
But Alabama's going to pull with this one.
And they're playing at home, so Alabama is.
Yeah. So
playing in Tuscaloosa, I don't see LSU coming away with the win.
They have the home field advantage. Alabama does.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to go with maybe it's gonna be a pretty
tight game.
Yeah, pretty low scoring type game, but I think Alabama's gonna have just a little bit
more points.
More points than what you have. Maybe
like 28-17,
31-21.
31-21. Okay. All right. Virginia Tech at Miami. Yes, Miami's undefeated. Yes, Virginia Tech lost by 2 touchdowns to the really only good opponent they've played this year. But Miami has won their last few games by combined of 15 points. So I don't think they're going to get – I think they're going to get upset at home. I think it's going to be a great low-scoring game. Virginia Tech's defense is legit. They've only allowed 51 points this year, and 31 of those came in their loss to Clemson. But one of their touchdowns, Clemson's, was a pick 6. But I think Virginia Tech gets the job done at Miami. 13-10. I think they get a field goal with a couple minutes left, and then they stop Miami on 4th down. And Miami does not stop Virginia Tech on offense. They're going to have a couple timeouts left. They use them. They can't stop them, and Virginia Tech kneels the ball, and Virginia Tech pulls off the upset. Penn State at Michigan State. I think that game will actually remain close throughout most of the game. But Penn State scores a late touchdown, puts them up by 2 touchdowns, and they win by 2 touchdowns, 38-24.
I mean, Penn State's running game is amazing.
Yeah, with Saquon Barkley.
Barkley.
Yeah, who's currently number 1 in the Heisman right now. And then you have Baker Mayfield challenging. You have Mason Rudolph challenging, of course, Lamar Jackson. And then don't forget about Bryce Love at Stanford. And then the Arizona quarterback. Quietly making his name in the Pac-12. And then, of course, in the Pac-12, you have Los Angeles over there, right?
Yeah.
And then they're going to put that on SportsCenter, and that's going to be shown all over the nation. So he's getting his name put out there. He's very athletic. Now, he can't throw the ball very well, so I don't think he's a Heisman candidate.
Yeah.
But, first team all-conference, yeah, very capable.
Yeah.
He's actually doing better than Sam Darnold is. So,
And Sam Darnold's... I think Sam Darnold's just a bit too overrated.
I would totally agree. We've seen USC teams being overrated here lately, haven't we? Yeah, it's been pretty ridiculous. Well, anyways, I'll go over my picks, and that will be it for this week. I got Auburn beating A&M, NC State pulling off the upset against Clemson, Ohio State at Iowa pulling off a tough win, 35-17. Iowa State at West Virginia. West Virginia comes close to the upset, but Iowa State prevails, 41-38. Washington State pulls off the upset at home against Stanford, 38-35. Oklahoma State pulls off the upset versus Oklahoma at home, 45-38. Texas pulls off the upset at TCU, 17-14. Alabama and LSU remain in a tight game the whole game, but Alabama pulls it out for the better team, 24-17. Virginia Tech pulls off the upset at Miami, 13-10. And then Penn State at Michigan State survives what would have been an upset, but Penn State prevails 38-24. So those are my picks for this week.